We're gonna talk about comics from Devil's Due. It's something you wondered if Talking Joe would ever do. I guess we'll explain it all to you. Gonna take some time to read the books we've never read. Hey, I have just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe. It's me, Mark, and welcome to Talking Joe, the best and longest running dedicated G.I. Joe comics podcast. If you are new to the show, you can find out all of the details over at the website, which is talkingjoe.co.uk. Now, this week, we are continuing our detailed look at the Disavowed era of G.I. Joe from Devil's Due. It's issue 29 and 30, which is Players and Pawns, part 2 and 3 of the 5-parter. And this came out from Devil's Due in May 2004. Now, discussing this with me will be, and I apologise, sir, for some imminent prawn-based puns, but here we go, going into this with my eyes open. It's my co-host. First up, it's a real American shrimp. It's Tim Finn.
Hello, Mark, and hello, listeners.
And next up, it is Prawn Star. It's G.I.J. J. Corndray.
Howdy, Joe fans.
Sorry. Good to have you guys back again to talk more Devil's Due. This time we're talking issue 29 and 30, parts 2 and 3 of the 5-parter. It's Brandon Jerwa. Brandon Jerwa. On story again, pencils Tim Seeley, inks Corey Hampshire, colours Brett R. Smith, letters Dreamer Designs, graphic design Mike Norton, production assistants Sean Dove, and military consultation Andrew Swenson.
Let's have a look at the covers in the gallery.
So we've got 29, which features Destro with handshake, and issue 30, Duke pointing a gun at us or above our left shoulder, and some bullets of Cobra characters. Over to you, Tim. What do you think of these two?
So 29 is a handsome and solid drawing from Tim Seeley, and there's a lot of story in this cover without being an action drawing, and also without being just a pinup, which don't have any story. And this cover asks a question, and I guess technically it was the previous issue that answered it, but you know, the interiors of this issue very much follows through on the puzzle or like promise of this cover. I like that both the younger Destro and also, remind me, what's her name? Destro's
Lillian,
that they're also there, and this is, as I said, a handsome drawing of Destro. The one thing that doesn't. I
was going to say, and this drawing is kind of replicated as the very last panel of the book, which is interesting. I always quite it tickles me when I see the kind of the cover being captured as a single panel in the book, and yeah, as a cover, it's not just a replication of that panel. It is working it up into a cover quality image.
Yeah, sorry. Did I state a factual error there? Did I get 28 and 29 mixed up? I guess
you may have done. Yeah.
Okay, so it's all right. So the cover is not referred to in the previous issue. The cover is referred to in this issue. Excuse me. So so there's a briefcase of money that's open on the bottom and left. There's a cigar in a lit smoking cigar in a ashtray. A bit of a wood table that these two things are sitting on with some kind of contract or paperwork. Destro has signed it. The one thing that I think could be much more effective with this cover is that, well, maybe I changed my mind. So I was sort of thrown off because when I saw the cover, I thought, oh, Destro's making a deal with a juggler or someone in Washington, D.C., like one of our political people. In reading the story, Destro's making a deal with the president of Sierra Gordo, and So I had thought, wait, is that a banner? Is that flag that's cropped to the right, top right under the GI Joe logo? It's like, well, shouldn't that be an American flag? But now I realize that must be either the Sierra Gordo standard or something related to its military. But I do wonder if, if you pull the quote camera back, then your characters are smaller and it's less dramatic. But I wondered if you could pull the camera back and somehow include a little bit more of that arm to sort of hint or tease at who it is that's making this deal. Because this cover is only interesting if this is an exciting or dangerous deal. If Destro is doing something bad. If it's like, let's say that arm was Cobra Commander, right? I don't mean Cobra Commander in the last 2 issues. Destro has like betrayed Cobra Commander. I mean in a very general sense. It's like Cobra. It's like, well, I know Destro makes deals with Cobra. So in order for this to be sort of more of a tease or more shocking, I think we need a little more information that it's like, oh no, Destro shouldn't be making this deal. And I think it's most of the way there.
Yeah, I mean, all the things that Tim said. It's just colored a little dark for me, but that's, what we're going to have with these. Lillian's pose is kind of weird. Her face is kind of weird. But, overall it works. I don't know. I was thinking when Tim was talking, how could we better get the idea across that this is not, in the in Washington, D.C. or something like that. Maybe if there was a window or something behind Destro and you could see, like, I don't know, cabanas like or something, like another
smoke
country
from a battle, perhaps
war-torn battlefield or something. Just we don't get a lot of hint of the environment here. I wish that they would do something with Alexander as far as giving him a unique outfit. I feel like all of the Iron Grenadiers are all just kind of have the same generic look. And, they've just kind of put him in that same outfit.
He and Lillian should definitely have some kind of variation.
Yeah.
On the Iron Grenadier outfit, so that we like them more, so that they're more toyetic, so that they stick out more when they're in a scene.
And Tim Seeley's missing one important Destro element here on number 29. Pull that zipper down. He's got to give a little more chest. We got to get that Khan thing from Wrath of Khan. Let's see the big Destro pecs.
Zip it down to the navel.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say something different. I have a comment on this cover that I'm saving for the end of the show.
Okay.
My comment on issue 30 cover is that it's fine. It's not a boring pinup. I do like the general sense of drama that these 3 vignetted, I guess they're not technically vignetted, but these 3 encapsulated Cobras, they're each doing something different. We're looking a little bit up at Cobra Commander, and he's looking over his shoulder. Baroness says, he's distrusting, right? Baroness is calm or sad. Destro is inscrutable because we can't see his face, and he's also looking at a window, which is symbolic for like leaving. So, and each has a different color treatment, and then there's this smashed Cobra element, the logo behind them, and then Duke in that costume from the action figures that I think is okay, but a little boring. There he is. Duke looks a little short. I feel like if you put your hand over Duke's bottom half, like from his waist down, and you like imagine with your eyes how far his legs should go, and then you pull your hand out and you look at the drawing again, his legs look stubby. This cover reminds me of the Rob Liefeld cover to New Mutants 87, where you have a character with a gun and then 3 or 4 character headshots in circles to the right. And that Rob Liefeld New Mutants 87 cover is sort of famously a cover swipe from the Gil Kane cover to Avengers 145, except that Liefeld sort of left out an element, which is that in the original Avengers cover, the villain is tossing photographs of the Avengers, which is why his hand is doing what it's doing. And you look at the New Mutants cover, and Cable isn't like tossing these like pogs of like the New Mutants. They're like little crosshairs, and so it has a different context, but it's also like, why is his hand there? I don't know. Like, it's still interesting, but his hand isn't doing the thing that it might be doing. And so I actually don't think that this is a cover swipe, and I don't even think that this is a subconscious cover swipe. I think sooner, if you put 100 monkeys in a room with typewriters and they're drawing G.I. Joe covers, like sooner or later, like 12 of them on the same day are going to draw a G.I. Joe character with a firearm and something about crosshairs or like vignetted or like, circular, like overlay insert panels of headshots.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like an egregious swipe or anything like that, but I think that New Mutants 87 cover is so iconic and so well known that there must have been a little bit of self-consciousness about it to some degree. It's possible that it wasn't, but I suspect that there probably was.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obviously something along those lines. I just don't think it's very, very good. and the biggest failure, I think, is having Destro's back to the audience. It's just and I know they've done that like with the Spider-Man walking away cover, and it can be done effectively, but I don't feel like in this instance with those three characters in the way they are, I just don't think that works. It doesn't, it's not obviously yelling at you like, this is Destro, even though to a Joe fan, you know who it is, but I don't think it works.
I noticed that as well, and sort of just as well because it's seems to be a bit of a tick of Tim Seeley's art style that he or art layout that he will kind of use a character with their back to us maybe more frequently than another artist would, because there was in the previous issue that we had, issue 28, there was about 5-ish panels of Destro with his back to us, to the audience.
There was 2 panels in one page of people walking away from the audience. 2 panels on the same page because we pointed it out.
And just to call out that the Duke on the cover was a new figure, so that's Duke version 17, according to Yojo, out in 2004, carded as part of the Valor versus Venom line.
Is that the 2-pack with Duke and Cobra Commander?
It probably came out in a couple different versions, because like my son, we actually have this Duke figure, and it came with a DVD, I think, and it was like they called it a mission disc, and it was this one, and he had a thing, and then there was Dusty.
The mission discs had the DVDs that only play on PC computers, and it had like slightly edited episodes of G.I. Joe. They were like 30 seconds short.
Those ones.
Okay, so my final thought on 30 is in 2004, it is not the style of the day to put text bursts on the cover, but since there isn't actual story happening on this cover, there's an arrangement of dramatic elements that don't really connect to each other inherently with this cover, right? It's not like they're crosshairs, and so we sort of think that Duke is going to shoot each of these 3 people. It's not that like, anyway. So if there was like a couple text bursts, like Duke's newest mission, find the commander, uncover Baroness's secret, and what is the mystery of Destro's secret deal, right? It's like, is that holding the audience's hand too much? No, I think it's fun and adds something a little necessary to this cover, because like I like this drawing on this arrangement fine enough, but it does just kind of sit there. Going back to 29, speaking of kind of just sitting there, pound for pound, I do like this cover, and I know I'm hard on Tim Seeley's art. What's not working fully for me is there isn't enough tension in the poses. So Alexander has his arms crossed, which is universal body language for like, I am closed off or I disagree with what is happening in front of me, right? It's why like photographers tell you like, don't fold your arms. And that's fine. And he's got a very small scowl on his face, and that's fine because that does set up some opposition to what Destro is doing. And then I guess Lillian is okay with it because she's got bright eyes and her eyebrows are up a tiny bit and she's smirking, which looks sort of supportive of this deal. But also she has her dagger, which indicates danger or threat or maybe distrust. But her standing pose alludes to the former, that she's relaxed, right? That she's okay with this. But I don't know, like I keep thinking of Mike Zeck as a big contrast to Tim Seeley, where, you know, Mike Zeck's covered is it issue 7 of Devil's Due, where Beachhead is grilling the 4 or 5 green shirts. You know, like there is such tension in how Beachhead is leaning forward, and I think he's pointing and he's scowling, and, you know, the green shirts are all reacting, and the one who's closest to us, I think, is, you know, like a little bit back up on his heels. We can't see his heels. And there's a little lack of snap to Seeley's poses and acting.
Yep, sounds fair. I was just looking at this Duke toy again, and there's a there was a few versions of the same figure sort of that was reused and recolored. And one of them was interesting. It's a little 3 3/4 inch or 4 inch Duke that was released as a Vellum versus Valor line, alongside a 12 inch voice FX Duke, and it's sort of packaged with a big button with the sort of the cutout in the middle where you can press your finger in, and it's got a try me. It looks hilarious.
If only that Duke was drawn on the cover at a 30. What? Okay, I know. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Devil's Due wants to do some tie-ins with the Hasbro toy line, even if Hasbro doesn't care or isn't paying attention. This Duke on the cover to 30 should be saying, "Try me."
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, Jay, have you prepared a plot breakdown for us?
In New York City, Hawk and Lady J are discovered alive in the remains of the WNN Studios building they were in when it was blown up by a Cobra saboteur. Hawk tells 20 Questions host Hector Ramirez that Cobra Commander is after attention, and has Lady J create a cover story to prevent the nation from knowing that Cobra blew up the building. In Transcarpathia, Destro tells his son Alexander and his girlfriend, the Mistress Armada, to prepare for the next phase of his plan. In Sierra Gordo, President Jesus de la Cruz receives a call from the leader of an invading force that has brought death and destruction to his country, a man named Guillermo Gomez of Sierra Morte. When de la Cruz asks if Gomez has any requests, Gomez tells him he only wants the president to remain there and wait for his end to come. Elsewhere in Sierra Gordo, Recondo, Ripcord, Tunnel Rat, Lowlight, and Dart are observing the invading army. On Cobra Island, Barrel Roll, who infiltrated the island last issue disguised as a raptor viper, plants a virus in Cobra's central core moments before being discovered by a random televiper. Barrel Roll manages to escape and makes his way to the beach to recover a hidden jet ski. However, just as he is about to head for open ocean, a gun is placed to his head. Meanwhile, back in Sierra Gordo, to stop the further encroachment of Gomez's forces, President de la Cruz makes a deal with the devil, Destro. In exchange for using his Iron Grenadiers to repel Gomez's forces, de la Cruz will allow Destro to build weapons factories in Sierra Gordo. On Cobra Island, Tomax and Xamot are forced to tell Cobra Commander about Barrel Roll infiltrating and escaping from Cobra HQ. Commander tells them to bring him alive and give him to the interrogator. On the beach, Barrel Roll turns to find the owner of the gun is none other than Dr. Mindbender, who's also trying to escape from Cobra Island. Barrel Roll tells Mindbender to hold on tight, but then drops him in the ocean as the jet ski takes off, leaving the demented dentist in the hands of some Cobra Vipers. Mindbender shoots one of the Vipers and runs away. Out to sea, Barrel Roll is being pursued by Copperhead and the Water Moccasin, 2 Hydrofoils, and a pair of Cobra Wave Crushers. Barrel Roll is airlifted to safety before the Cobras can reach him, and Hacker reveals that the virus he planted was just a way into Cobra's system. Hacker says the Cobras will find it eventually, but not the back door the virus created into their network. Cobra Commander tells the Baroness Destro is planning something he needs to find out what it is. In Sierra Gordo, Destro signs a deal with President de la Cruz that will allow him to build weapons factories in Sierra Gordo for exchange to defending his country. During the negotiations, one of Destro's men stops to investigate a noise he heard and is knocked out by a hard left to the metal faceplate. When Destro and his men leave De La Cruz's office, De La Cruz tells his assistant to get Gomez on the phone. De La Cruz tells Gomez about his deal with Destro and says he's sure Destro is on his way there at the very moment. The Joes discover it is Destro's Iron Grenadiers in disguise who are attacking Sierra Gordo. Destro returns to Sierra Morte and is alerted that his standby forces have been captured by a team of SEALs. Just then, one of Destro's Iron Grenadiers points a gun at him and removes his helmet, revealing G.I. Joe's First Sergeant Duke underneath. Gomez tells Destro that Sierra Gordo and Sierra Morte had a peace agreement before the attacks in Sierra Gordo began, and they alerted the Joes as soon as Destro showed up. Destro is arrested, his Iron Grenadiers are rounded up, and the Joes tend to their wounded. Later on Cobra Island, Cobra Commander asked the Baroness if she heard of Destro's arrest, and asked if she would like to stage a rescue mission. The Baroness says Destro made his choice, and he can rot for it.
Dun, dun, dun. Rot away, Destro. So let's hone in. Yeah, a lot there. Yeah, a lot to chew on.
You know what I'm struck by first when I open these two comics?
It might be the same as my headline, Tim. Can I take a guess?
Yeah.
Is it the paper stock?
No. But that's very kind of you.
Because it's quite a nice stock on these issues. It's I sort of noticed it flicking from 29 to 28 to 29. It's a kind of a bit more of a matte quality to it, less gloss. It's quite an appealing paper stock.
Huh? You know what? The door's closed and my copy of 28 is out of reach. But maybe I did like it more without realizing it. What I'm most struck by is advertisements.
Uh-huh.
So the inside front cover to 29 is an advertisement, and for a home video game, and then there are several pages of ads in this issue. I mean, throughout the issue. I don't mean like 4 pages of ads for other Devil's Due comics at the end. I mean 3.
They're within the comic.
4. Yeah, they're within the comic, and then the back cover is an ad for a PlayStation game, a Transformers PlayStation game. And I don't think there have been ads like this in previous issues of Devil's Due G.I. Joe. And so what this means to me is if you're thinking like, I don't like this is interrupting my reading flow, it's the opposite for me. It makes it feel more like I'm reading a comic from the 80s or 90s where you get ad breaks. And also it shows me that someone at Devil's Due is trying to make some money in a different way, and I think is being successful. And anything that can bring more money to Devil's Due while it's doing its G.I. Joe comics, so they can, like hire more expensive talent, or I don't know, go to more conventions and like spread the word. Like that's a good thing. And what this also shows me, because what's this ad for? Kryptonics, a chopper in a box. The all-new chopper in a box, skateboard, board bag, and helmet all in one. Okay, available at Dick's Sporting Goods. All right, so most of the ads are for home video game stuff, and then there's this ad for like a helmet or something. This shows me that Devil's Due is advertising at a particular demographic, or particular demographics, right? Like when I pick up a new Marvel comic. This happened last year, and the inside front cover is a photo of a 4-year-old boy with like a dumb-looking Spider-Man bicycle helmet, and he's got like some like Spider-Man decoration on his bicycle handlebars, and then the very poorly designed copy and type covers up the kid's hands and the handlebars, and it's like Spider-Man products. It's like okay, first of all, it's a terrible ad. But second of all, like, oh, I guess that's for like little kids or their parents, right? Anyway, but in 2004, who's buying video games? Like 20-year-olds and 25-year-olds and 30-year-olds. And then for issue 30, you open it up and the inside front cover and page 1 are a 2-page ad for that same Transformers Hasbro licensed PlayStation 2 game, excuse me. And so when I'm counting pages in the second issue for today, I'm starting at what I would consider page 1, story page 1, art page 1. It's a small thing, but it's sort of delightful. That's my first impression.
There we go.
We'll get worried when they start including ads for like AARP and Gold Line and stuff like that.
I didn't get the references. That's an old demographic.
Oh,
yeah.
The AA. Sorry, to our non-American fans, the AARP is the American Association of Retired Persons. It's a thing you join when you're 65 if you want.
You see those commercials late at night with all the lawyer commercials and stuff.
Yeah, so that would be the G.I. Joe 60th anniversary comic.
What are your first impressions?
Chunking this up, I guess there's what 3 main kind of subplots happening. We've got the bomb aftermath initially. We've got shenanigans on Cobra Island, the barrel roll mission, and then the subsequent kind of political shenanigans with the Cobra hierarchy, and then we've got this mission in Sierra Gordo. So juggling these different kind of threads nicely going on. We've got a lot of characters, a lot of different things happening, and also sort of a little bit of sort of leaning into the nostalgia as well. So we've got the likes of Recondo and Ripcord back in Sierra Gordo after probably not seeing them in that locale or together since a walk through the jungle in issue 39, one of the real classics of the line. So that was a kind of a nice little nod for me. But yeah, I think there's still sort of, sort of enjoying whether it's going, but I think there's still some sort of stumbling in some of the execution and some of the just things getting a little bit confused perhaps in terms of how it's conveyed on the page. We can dig into that a little bit as we go. For me, the confusion almost started straight away though at the beginning of 29, and maybe you guys can help me with this, that we have a starter which opens up with, was it clutch and zap sort of, and then the explosion that was 12 minutes ago, and then we flick forward to now where they're now sort of scrambling through the wreckage to try and find survivors. We've got Lightfoot and Barbecue in their full gear, and I thought, oh, that's a good response time. 12 minutes. Imagine give them 12 minutes and they'll barely even be halfway through dressing into those somewhat elaborate costumes, let alone making it halfway across New York rush hour. But anyway,
the best.
Yeah. So a little bit convenient, but. And then the next page on, there's 2 characters, a female and a male, who are in red blankets, and one of them has got a head bandage. And I was a little bit thrown as to who that was, because I think we've got Hawk and Lady J stood in front of the ambulance or fire engine, and we've got Hector Ramirez there in the middle of them. So I'm not entirely sure who those people are actually meant to be.
I have a note, and I wrote down, who's the bald guy on page 3? So the person on the right of these 2 people wearing red blankets that you're referring to, Mark, who has a head bandage, doesn't have any sideburns. So I think that means he's bald.
Yeah, and the back of the head shot at the bottom left.
Right. So I don't know who that is, and there are very few white guy bald Joes. I think he has a tiny earring. In both panels, you can see a little hoop under what is his right earlobe. But what's so stumbly about this is that on page 1, these 2 Joes who are not in identifying costumes identify each other by name for the audience's benefit. Zap. What can I say? Clutch. And then 2 pages later, there's another person or 2 who no one calls by name. So I don't actually know who this is. Is it Salvo or who's the Slaughter's Marauder? Who's the middle guy? No, he's got crazy red facial hair. Jay, who is this?
I don't have any idea.
I think the idea is that in that building when Lady J and Hawk were on whatever floor doing the TV interview, I guess there were other Joes like down the hall or like doing security in a lobby or something. That's my guess.
What my guess was that it was possibly like a TV producer or something, because they're huddled next to Hector Ramirez, like as if they're maybe part of the same group. And from the dialogue, he's saying, obviously this was an attack by Cobra, but can we publicize that? Is that just giving what they want? So maybe he's coming from the point of, I'm the head honcho behind the news program. I don't want to publicize. I don't want to, I have to be careful about how I make this. But it's,
I was
a bit confused.
I have another problem with this scene. So pages 2 and 3, sort of the like wreckage of the building and digging out survivors and standing by the emergency vehicles. There's a ground plane of rubble that the Joes are standing on or digging through. There is nothing behind them except for a like smoky haze. And wasn't this downtown Manhattan?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, downtown Manhattan is redundant. Wasn't this Manhattan? Like, where are the buildings or the like bus shelters, traffic across the street? This looks like the pit. This looks like the pit got hit by a bomb and the Joes are digging through like 3 Quonset huts worth of debris on the ground, but there's like nothing around except for desert.
The rubble that they're going through looks like, like the aftermath of 9/11, but in the first page, you can see the explosion really just takes the top off the building. It probably doesn't level the whole building. But I think being when this was made, I'm sure that Seeley probably used some footage for reference of what. So I'm not going to fault him for that. But yeah, we need some background.
Sorry, they dig Lady J out from under rubble, which implies that some of the building collapsed.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does seem to suggest that the building has been literally leveled to ground level, but it does look like Zap and Clutch are right in front of it as the bomb goes off, which if it is that big an explosion, it literally reduces the entire building to rubble. I think Clutch and Zap might have other things to be worrying about.
I'm being hard on this scene. I do like Lady J's dialogue at the end of it, where she has a plan for how to massage the message of this bomb attack. The other thing that strikes me about this opening scene and then the next scene at Destro's castle with Destro and Alexander and Lillian is Seeley's continued use of the straight on shot, where he puts the camera, finger quotes camera, at like as if a camera operator, if this is a movie, it just like has the camera on their shoulder or like on a tripod at 4.5 feet, 5 feet. And Seeley doesn't often put the camera up at 10 feet, 15 feet, 20 feet and angle it down. He does on the top of page 3, where Destro is walking and there are 2 Iron Grenadiers behind him and he's being greeted by someone. He does do that there. But recently on one of his 2 Facebook pages, Larry Hama posted a very simple pencil sketch that he did of small stick figures that look a certain way. And he said, sometimes in my scripts, I call for a Joe Kubert clothespin shot. And he's referring to how you might draw like a clothespin, right? Like those wooden things that you use to stick clothes to like clotheslines so they dry. And what Hama is saying is, sometimes I want my artist to draw the scene from like 15 or 300 feet back and like up in the air, like 20 feet or 40 feet and looking down at an angle and not straight down and not straight on. And this is not Hama saying this anymore. This is what I get out of all of this kind of shot, which is you are far enough away to know where everyone is and where everyone is in relation to everyone else. And you get to see a bunch of the ground and you get to see a bunch of the, depending on the angle, like some of the, say, buildings sort of around them. And but the first panel of the digging out the survivors scene is straight on. And if Seeley doesn't want to draw all these buildings around them, then he should put the camera high up and aim it down so that we don't see any buildings around them. And then when James and Lillian are having this fencing match, that first panel of them, like, yes, it is very dramatic to have a profile shot of fencers fencing because you get the full effect of their poses, right? But the background perspective here is pretty boring. And then the next, 1, 2, 3, next turn the page, 4, 5, 6, 7 panels, even when Destro enters the scene, are these straight on shots, which are not very exciting. And in the final panel of this scene where Destro is talking to Alexander Lillian, and they're now like sitting or kneeling on the ground, he does pull the camera up in exactly the way that I'm describing. But to be a full-on like Joe Kubert clothespin shot, he's too close. But I think I've referred to this, my own name for this kind of shot, as a quarter angle, right? So if you think of an animation model sheet, you have like straight on, profile, like rear, if you're rotating the camera around someone. If you go to a quarter angle, you're halfway between straight on and profile. And if you go to a rear 3/4 angle, you're halfway between a profile and a like straight on rear shot. But if you now like lift your camera up 10 feet and you angle it down, that's why I call that a quarter angle. Anyway, I think a lot of Seeley's storytelling weak spots would be clarified with moving the camera back, often high up, and fewer straight shots. Also, more drama, not just more clarity. And I feel that way throughout these two issues. A lot of straight shots.
My observation on this one is that Destro is told that they're in the great room fencing, and I looked at that scene and I thought to myself, or that panel, and I thought, well, I'll be the judge of that. It doesn't look especially like a great room unless it was named so ironically.
Yeah, unless we're just seeing a little portion of it, maybe.
Perhaps.
It's not that big, it's not that great, it's not that fancy.
Yeah. Shall we change scene to Cobra Island?
Yep.
A great little intro, actually, to when we do change scenes to Cobra Island in the Gulf of Mexico. We initially see Cobra Commander giving a rallying speech to his troops, standing from a Hiss 4 with the kind of the head / I guess cockpit sort of raised. So it's sort of like using that kind of toyetic play feature of where the Hiss tank's kind of head could be raised up, and sort of presenting it in quite an interesting and dramatic way, actually on the panel. So yeah, I did quite like that.
Is Cobra Commander's outfit now supposed to be black?
Yeah, it's described as black in the letters page at some points.
Okay.
But it was I think a preference of Tim Seeley that he likes the black. So yeah, quite a cool little sequence of barrel roll, sort of making his way into Cobra Island, and
I was kind of surprised that they wrap up the barrel roll part in the story right here. I mean, it's good; it all plays out really well. But I thought, oh, he infiltrated, and I assumed that he would be on the island for several issues.
Me too.
Just the two.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it worked. It was still good, but
I see Jurawa keeping it peppy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But since Destro leaves abruptly without consulting Baroness, since Cobra Commander is only gone for 3 issues and and not communicating with Cobra, and since Barrel Roll only infiltrates Cobra for like 11 hours, I do wonder if Jurawa is going to have a lot of things happen really fast in the comic, and if some of it may be to the detriment of story and drama. Like, no, let that sit for longer.
Yeah.
Did you generally like the barrel sequence though?
Yeah, I did.
What you had of it?
A lot.
There's a fun panel of him shooting behind after he's been escaped and shooting over his shoulder, and it's the kind of almost the broke back position that you get in a lot of cheesecake, so that you can see both the chest and the butts.
I noticed that. What was the reaction called? Was it the Hawkeye Initiative?
That's right, wasn't it? Yeah.
There was the internet noticed 10 years ago that, like comic book artists would often draw female characters in poses, like action poses on covers or interiors that A, they would not put male characters in, and also B, where, as Mark just described, their spine is twisting so much you can see like both their butts and also their breasts. And so someone on the internet started, or several people started drawing male characters like Hawkeye, sort of tracing on top of these like female characters drawn into comics to perhaps show how silly it all was. And it's like when you see a male character in that pose, you think, oh yeah, no, I that's awkward and like that's not exciting or sexy. You know, we should all knock this off.
You think?
And I did notice this in issue 30. I like the scene with Barrel Roll. In issue 29, there is a wordless page. There's a 6-panel wordless page where after he's heard Cobra Commander's speech, he's sneaking down a hallway. Coils doesn't notice him. He's looking up. He's in an air duct doing something, and he's got a flashlight in his mouth. He's coming down from the air duct in a room, and we can see his silhouette past a Viper who doesn't see it happening. And then he's on the ground, something. I think putting his costume back on or putting something into his vest.
Probably getting his tools out or something.
And except for the boring straight-on shot of the first panel, I still like the idea of the first panel, even if the quote camera angle of it isn't fun. I read this in any comic book and I don't immediately think, hey, silent interlude. I just think, no, there's like sort of no quote noise in the scene. Like you wouldn't draw attention to how loud it is to open up the air duct and crawl in, unless you're trying to be really quiet and like people are nearby and, you know, you draw the character like wincing because they're being too loud. It's like, no one can hear him because this part of the base isn't being patrolled at the moment. Or he's just that quiet. So separate from silent interlude, I like this kind of scene because it's all told visually. Also, anytime G.I. Joe comic does a wordless scene or issue, we all think, hey, silent interlude. So that's fun.
I thought the whole sequence of him escaping was really good. You know, it just worked really well. Jerwa has a good use of plotting that kind of thing. You know, not just coming up with it, but using pages, just like Tim said, putting all of that action on one page and using that to be a six panel page, just quiet and gets all that stuff done. It's good plotting, I feel like, and the whole sequence just worked really well.
There's another moment of really nice writing and visual storytelling where Barrel Roll has jumped off the cliff and taken out some cobras and parachuted down to the beach. And he says, here's hoping Depth Charge managed to hide his jet ski down here on the beach. And the next panel, top of the page, the camera's low. The camera's like 2 inches. The camera's just sitting on the ground. And in the foreground, there's a starfish, which is actually called a sea star because they're not fish, stuck in the sand. And then in the middle distance, Barrel Roll's looking sort of at us, but at the sea star, and he says, perfect. And then the next panel, he is uncovering a jet ski without any dialogue, thought balloons, or captions. And so there's this little bit of visual storytelling where he sets us up that the jet ski is going to be hidden in a particular place, and then he sees an object out of place, which is where Depth Charge must have visually signaled to Barrel Roll that he had hidden this jet ski. And it's just one panel in the middle of a 3-panel sequence, and it's pretty simple, but it's great.
Yeah.
Like it's great bit of writing and it's a great bit of drawing, storytelling. But then on the rest of the page, I get sort of thrown off and confused because Barrel Roll he's in the background now, sort of pulling his jet ski out, and he's in silhouette. And in the foreground, there's a Viper who's saying, "Control, this is Viper 987. No sign of him." And there's some like lumpy thing in front of the Viper, and I can't tell if the Viper is like holding up his own wrist, like a Star Trek, like comm on a like a talking watch, or if that's like a second Viper's shoulder in front of him. But anyway. So then in the next panel, Barrel Roll's like continuing to push the jet ski on the beach toward the water, and he's talking to himself. And in the foreground, there's this black glove coming out from a shadow. And then in the final panel, the Black Glove is holding a pistol and points it at his head and says, this mystery person, the Black Glove, says, do exactly as I say and you might just survive this. I need you to do me a favor. And he says, oh yeah, what's that? And again, this mystery person, still, we don't know who it is, says, you're going to get me the hell off this island. And I thought, oh, that's a Viper, because there are Vipers patrolling the island. B, well, if that's a Viper, they have red gloves. That's miscolored. And C, oh, it's Mercer. This is where Devil's Due is going to introduce Mercer. So I'm going to turn the page, and there's going to be a full page, like a full Mark Miller Ultimates 2002 splash final page of a comic where it's just a big drawing of one character and they're saying one thing, like Captain America pointing at his head and saying, do you think this A stands for France? Oh, Mark Miller. So much attitude. And I turn the page and I expect it to be a full drawing of a Viper saying, I'm defecting, or a Viper who's taken his helmet off and it's a guy with short brown hair. And it's Mercer, finally in the comics. I turn the page and it's some other scene. So do I just have Mercer on the brain? And
Yeah.
it's I was wrong in how I was reading this? Or did you guys find, I feel the sort of, and you don't have to follow this, Brandon Sherwa, but I feel sort of the momentum of this comic is that you turn the page and you're going to get one more thing about this scene, even if it's a floating caption over the next scene that is a scene change, which is one last bit of dialogue, or the reveal of who it is, even if it's not Mercer. But I feel in trying to, because now I know who it is because I did read the next issue, in trying to hold back who it is, it made the scene more confusing for me because I don't know who it is, but not in a fun, tantalizing way. And also the momentum of this scene is cut off because we cut to some other scene. So you guys have thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think probably it was the intentional sort of slightly misdirectional with the Viper, that it's meant to give you a bit of leeway to think, is that a Viper that's holding it to the gun to Barrel Roll's forehead? Yeah, and probably, but I get the sort of the sense of the momentum and building up to kind of a grand finale to sort of, perhaps that could have worked as well, that almost on the next page, instead of the next issue, that you have maybe a full page splash of panel 2 from page 2 of the next issue of Dr. Mindbender being revealed with the gun, and then possibly continue on into the next issue where he gets the better of him. But yeah, I mean, no real quick quibbles though. I wasn't confused and wasn't left disappointed by the change of scene, to be honest, reading it.
Well, I didn't think that it was Mercer because he came back during the Battle of Cobra Island.
Yes,
and
and
got
that
killed.
of course.
Oh, right.
We've already
Right.
seen Mercer.
Yeah.
I think I have stuck my foot in my mouth now
Oh, that's okay.
eight times in the entire Disavowed podcast history of this show, where something did happen in an earlier Devil's Due issue, and I just hadn't remembered it. So to our listeners who know this comic series better than me, who are like, Tim, you lose all credibility in your critique when you can't remember a simple thing like Mercer's already shown up, I apologize. Another thing threw me off with Barrel Roll's escape, which is when he, 2 pages earlier, there's a shootout in a hallway with some Crimson Guardsmen. And Barrel Roll he's action pose firing and standing in front of a recessed glass case in the wall, which has what looks like an oxygen tank. Because it's a tank that looks like a fire extinguisher, an oxygen tank, and then a little face mask with a tube. He gets shot with his elbow. He crashes the glass and he keeps shooting. And then Tomax and Xamot say, "The extinguisher!" And the other one says, "And the alarms!" And then in a nice high looking down shot past an element in the ceiling that feels like a Shannon Gallant panel from Real American Hero, we see the 2 sprinklers and a fun sound effect. And Barrel Roll's holding this sort of red fire extinguisher or oxygen tank. He runs through a ladder. He's on the roof Crimson Guardsman says, "Nowhere to go this time, pal." Barrel roll throws it back at him. He reacts, jumps, barrel roll jumps, blink, and the tank gets shot right in front of these two Crimson Guardsmen. You turn the page and there's a big incendiary explosion, like flame and fire and yellow and red, and with a big sound effect, kaboom. So the panel where he's throwing it, it's hard to read, but the actual tank says O2, caution, flammable. But Tomax called it a fire extinguisher. And so I thought it was a fire extinguisher. And fire extinguishers are decidedly not flammable. If you shoot it, I guess like water or like white foam would explode. And so I can't tell if Jerwa is like getting a little confused here, if he's having a character in the scene get confused so that we think it's a fire extinguisher, but then when it actually blows up and like takes out these two Crimson Guardsmen, it's like a fun surprise for us. But it just sort of threw me off because I thought, wait, why did this fire extinguisher blow up? It would just like go, pff, it'd be like exploding the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It wouldn't be like a bomb goes off. So I asked my two co-hosts again regarding a scene at the end of this comic. Did this work for you? Were you confused? Am I just reading this wrong?
I wasn't terribly confused. I think that instead of saying the extinguisher and the alarms, that he should have said like the sprinklers and the alarm, because I don't think that he's pointing out to his brother that Barrel Roll took an extinguisher from the wall. I think that they're just commenting on the sprinklers and the alarms and stuff going off. There's all kinds of, again, butter sculpture in the background. I'm not sure if that's coming from the sprinklers in the ceiling, and maybe that's kind of an extinguisher system.
Yeah, he's previously jumped up and grabbed the
like
okay, that's coming
cables from the ceiling, and that's sort of releasing something. I'm not entirely sure what the substance is.
So that's the gas,
white smoky gas marshmallow.
From there.
It's the marshmallow dispenser.
Yeah.
Actually, while we're on that panel, let me sort of just break our flow with an error detected.
Error detected. Error detected. No prize incoming.
So bottom left panel. Hey, Dumb and Dumber. My eyes. Eliminate something because we don't see, because that word bubble is lost off the panel. Have you got the trade in front of you?
No prize that one. Well, no. I was going to say he didn't finish it because the stuff got in his mouth too. But yeah, hold on a second. Let me grab my trade and see if it.
I was just wondering if they corrected that one for the trade. Hopefully, it's not in a different house or anything.
No, I got it right here. It's fixed in the paperback. It says eliminate hit at -- ack, and then in the next panel he says ag. And that's it.
What we missed out on. What could have been.
They fixed that. The digital copy that I have on the computer is cut like that too.
All right, so we've talked about the barrel roll.
But Tim, on the fire extinguisher, in the behind the glass, it makes sense that it's, I guess, oxygen. You can see the tank, and leading from it is a mask. So it's a breather for, I guess, oxygen. You wouldn't breathe in fire extinguisher. But I thought you might mention this, that when he throws it and it shoots at it, blink, and it explodes. That you have said previously, oxygen tanks do not explode, as has been evidenced at the end of Jaws. That it was pointed out to Steven Spielberg that, yep, I know if you shoot an oxygen tank, it will not explode, but it's cooler if it does.
I knew that Mythbusters proved that wrong, but yeah, I'm with Steven Spielberg. Blow that shark up.
It was you that told me that, right, Tim?
No, I think did Brandon Jerwa say this?
Maybe it was Brandon Jerwa. Okay, yeah. We definitely said it before on the show.
I think I talked about how Spielberg changed the sound effect when the oxygen tank explodes from the initial release of the film to a later restoration.
I don't remember this.
I didn't say it to you. I learned it from someone who knows a lot about Jaws. So all right, we talked about the barrel roll stuff.
It changed the shark to go doi just before he exploded.
It's just it's the sound effect that changes, not an image. How do you guys feel about this stuff in Sierra Gordo with these the Joe team is sort of split in half, and then there are the like robots or mercenaries, and then there's the political maneuvering with the rebels. How do you feel about that?
I got the gist, and I liked what they were trying to do, but was left a little bit confused in places, and sort of had to kind of circle back and read things to kind of figure things out that maybe weren't quite as clear as they could have been. Like there's a sequence, for example, where Dart and Ripcord are sort of firing down at a column of vehicles, and it's difficult to tell what the vehicles are because they're very diddy, and then there's a shot taken, and they run up to the vehicle, and there's one of these, look what you're calling cyborg baddies in these sort of strange costumes.
This gray armor.
Grey armor, yeah, and looking at it, I figure out that he's been shot, and that's why Ripcord has run up to him. He thinks that he's taken him out, but he's still alive, and he tries to shoot him again. But it took me a few times to kind of figure out what was actually happening in that sequence.
Because the word balloon is taking up half the panel and blocks the vehicle where you might see a looks like he's dead gray armored soldier.
Yeah, you're right, Tim.
I think that in this action sequence is where we really see a lot of Seeley's shortcomings. It's this, it probably reads pretty well, but just the art wasn't up to, what it needed to be.
In the bottom left-hand corner on that page that we're just talking about, you've got a direct sort of a bird's eye view, direct down, and it looks, like the original Grand Theft Auto, if you ever played that, or the driving sequences in the original
Spy Hunter.
Police. What was it called? Police Quest from.
We're seeing the vehicles directly from above.
Yeah. Which is an unusual shot, I'd say, for G.I. Joe. You wouldn't normally see a direct down.
I also had a little bit of a hard time telling who was who and where in all of the Sierra Gordo stuff.
Yeah.
Should we talk about Dart? Because he's a new toy, right, for roughly this year?
Yep. He is 2002. He's Jimmy Tool Elk. And his primary military specialty is recon. Yeah. So
here's a character who he reminds me of three other characters. He reminds me of Spirit Iron Knife because he's a Native American. He reminds me of Gung Ho because he has a vest. We see some chest and there's a tattoo on the chest. And then he reminds me of any Joe that has been recon, because anytime a new Joe comes out who has a specialty that's redundant to a previous Joe, I think, cool, like they could go on a mission together. Or I think, no, use that old guy more. Don't make a new guy. And he also kind of reminds me of Sigma 6 Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't Sigma 6 Spirit like green and brown and gray? He doesn't have any blue from his original 80s costume. So if I squinted at this drawing of Dart, I'd think, oh, is this Spirit Iron Knife from Sigma 6, but like drawn in sort of not drawn like chunky and geometric.
I like the inclusion of Dart, and I like how, and we talked about this in other issues, I think in the last issue, how Joes are introduced in various ways, and a lot of times in Larry's books, just like in this one, they'd just be out on a mission and there'd be a new guy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he's just there. He's just part of the team. And I like that. I like when they introduce him like that.
I'm sort of wondering why that is either like reasonable for us or surprising. And I think about like how Joes were introduced in the animated series. And in most cases, a Joe would just be in an episode, sort of
Yeah.
their spotlight episode. In a few cases, like Sergeant Slaughter or Serpentor, it's sort of built up, or it is built up. And then certainly with some characters, they're just there in the first episode. Duke's just there at the beginning of G.I. Joe. Flint is just there in the second year at the beginning. But since this is a comic, it's like, well, what's the comparison? Like Avengers famously, what is it, a year in the 60s, like Captain America like announces a new team, or maybe it's 3 years, and some of the current Avengers are not going to be Avengers anymore. And oh, by the way, these 3 former villains are going to be Avengers. And in fact, there is a Larry Hama written issue of Avengers from, I want to say, roughly 1990, but I don't know. He wrote, I think, the series just for 6 issues. And
that was Avengers 329 from February 1991, by the way. Okay.
Thank you. The cover is Captain America at a podium with a microphone, and behind him are like TV panels of, I think, 16 Avengers, and Captain America, it's like a press conference. He's like announcing the new Avengers team. And so, like, that's a book where when lineup changes happen in the story, it's a public event. And then you have a book like Fantastic Four where, like, yes, the lineup changes now and then, but most of the time it's just these 4 characters who are a family. But if you were in the military and your platoon or your squadron like was going to get some new people, it's like they just show up, like the sergeant brings them in. It's like, there are those 3 empty beds, 3 new guys, go take those new beds. And if you were like coming back from a mission, you just show up and hear the new guys, or you just like go out on a mission and you meet up with your new guys on the mission.
The thing that's weird about this is that we did have the scene in the previous issue where they're like, oh, here's 6 new Joes. And then in this one, it's like, well, we're out on the field and here's a new guy. Well, he doesn't get an introduction. It's like, he's just there. He didn't get a special spotlight.
Is it issue 82 of the Marvel run with Repeater and Viper, a Viper on the cover that specifically introduces 3 new Joes and the rest are washouts? It's like, it's a whole issue to show how you make it to the team, and then these 3 new guys are on the team. I like Jay's point that it can happen in lots of different ways. If it's a character that I love or I want to love, I hope the story can sort of pause so they do get some kind of introduction. Like maybe the Joes are in a helicopter going to the mission and someone can say, like, hey, Dart, or in the case of Real American Hero at IDW right now, hey, Mongoose. I think that was that the cafeteria at the pit?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you're the new guy. Like, yep, I'm the new guy. Well, here we are. Your dialogue may vary, but like, well, here we are on a mission. And then, like, the helicopter gets shot
Actual
down.
dialogue may vary.
The mission gets continued.
Cool. So any more on that we wanted to call out specifically on Sierra Gordo shenanigans?
I like what Jurwa does where there was an irony. There was more happening in the scene and only Jurwa knew. We didn't know, the reader doesn't know that this is all going according to plan. Duke is already there, and Duke is smarter than everyone in the scene. He's smarter than Destro, and he's smarter than me, the reader. So when I get to the end of the scene and Duke shows up and says, foiled you, Destro, I think, cool. I like when that happens in stories because it shows that the writer is smarter than me or hiding something without me being able to figure it out. The actual scene, which leads up to Duke revealing himself, where it's like the president's assistant, she goes down the hall with this Iron Grenadier, and the Iron Grenadier opens a door and then gets punched by an anonymous Caucasian arm. And then she's now back, and Destro has his tea. I found
and almost kills everyone. I was like, easy, Destro.
Well, but if he'd done it and then he'd been like, they betrayed me and here's proof, we'd be like, what a badass. But the 1, 2, bottom of page, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the next page, panels of Iron Grenadier in the hallway with this person with the water for tea. Someone punches, and the implication is, I think, Duke is hiding in this closet, and then takes that guy's costume, puts it on, and then comes in a minute later and is like, by the way, it's me, Duke, foiled you, Destro. The actual scene I found, A, a little confusing, and B, like, why are they spending 5 panels talking about a noise behind an anonymous door? It's like, okay, well, this must be important, but it felt clunky to me.
Mm-hmm. And also, this is going to seem a little bit like a broken record. Duke put on that disguise really quickly. Look at that costume. That is not a costume that you can put on quickly.
And that, I was going to say that and use that as an example as a defense to those Joes at the beginning. This just shows you Joes are super fast, like clothes changers. That must be something that they work on, and they're just boom, like quick, like magicians.
I think there's a scene in Marvel issue 82 where Duke is giving the almost Joes like all this physical labor to do. It's like, I need like 100 laps and then 1,000 push-ups, and like Lightfoot and the other 2 guys are like, I hope we make it. It's like, okay, put your costume on. You have 20 seconds.
See?
And now put an Iron Grenadier costume over the top of it. You have 5.
That
just punch, though.
Like that.
I
thought it was Road Pig punching that guy for a second.
It's a chunky arm with big chunky wrists, and I noticed that it's something. I'll try and find the panel, but I noticed that there was a few panels where the wrist on the arms was like massive, and sort of slightly reminded me of what was it? There's this book called Superman at Earth's End by an artist called Frank Gomez, and he draws this sort of very individual style, which is kind of these kind of like quite a kind of stubby, muscular physique.
He's got a really neat style. I like.
Yeah,
that
it's cool. It's it's not at all realistic, but it's not trying to be. It's quite a fun style. Definitely impactful. And some of those little flares just sort of put me in mind of that style of the ultra roided up kind of stubby muscular arms. But there we go.
As for the finale, I mean, this is chapters 2 and 3 of a story, but a 5-parter. But as for the finale of these issues we're reading today, this final page where back on Cobra Island, Cobra Commander checks in with Baroness, gives her this choice, and then she says, no, let's not rescue him. I like this scene. I thought the dialogue was great. Cobra Commander he has intel on what's happening with Destro, even though Destro just left, and the Baroness is cold at the end. So I think that's compelling. It's a surprise, and it's compelling.
Yeah, I liked this. Overall, I really liked these issues.
I had one thing that I really liked about the barrel roll escape sequence, and one thing that I didn't like so much. One thing that I thought was really cool was that bit where they're sort of hooking up the jet ski and then dropping it on the water moccasin. I thought that was quite a cool.
I agree.
Sequence.
I agree. That was something I wanted to call out. Fun, exciting sequence. And I have a butt, but I'll let you do your butt first.
If you want to check out my butt first, it's as follows. It was what really sort of follows on then from that sequence where they're just back in the helicopter, and the kind of sense of place and sense of movement associated with that just seemed a little bit strange. It's like sort of kind of used to seeing things shown in a certain way when you're on a helicopter in G.I. Joe comic book from how it has been shown before, and it's quite compact, it's moving fast, it's a lot of wind, sort of a lot of movement, and I guess a lot of peril associated with missiles and that kind of thing.
And you're being shaken around, and you might fall out. You might fall out the giant open door on the side.
But instead, what we have are people standing very bolt upright, straight, and the immediate thing to do is to somehow break out a cup of uncovered coffee or hot cocoa or something, and a nice towel to pad yourself down with, and that just didn't give me that sort of sense of place or sense of peril.
What's two comments to follow up on this. So some of this is the scripting, right? It's like, but Seeley's like, it's like he's trying to not draw the tomahawk, because you see it twice, kind of small, sort of like enough of it that it's identifiable. Like you see it from like 20 feet away, but there are a couple panels, and there's a lot going on here because there's the water moccasin, and there are some like sharks, right?
Wave crushers.
Wave crushers.
Yeah, that's a Cobra repaint of the shark. Came out in 2001, 2002.
All right. Thank you. So I didn't know that. They're not identified by name. They don't have Cobra symbols on them. They're colored in this like gray, which is like devils do. That could be like black, or that could be like white, like is Cobra Commander in black, or is he in like gray and it's really dark? I don't know. And
like orange.
And so this big panel on the bottom of a page where we do see the water moccasin, 2 morays, and 2 wave crushers. I thought, oh, I guess like part of the extraction for barrel roll is that some sharks are showing up to escort him. Like, oh man, the water moccasin and these morays are really close. They're all like point blank. They should just like take them out. But then like no one talks about them. But okay, now I understand that's part of the Cobra like chase to get this one guy and this one jet ski. And then there's the winch, the cable. So Seeley's got a lot to contend with in this scene. And there are speaking roles for at least 4 characters, right? And it's in the water and up in the air and then like inside the helicopter. So this is difficult. But to Mark's point, once you turn the page past like that ad for Atari, where barrel roll is now on the helicopter, and yes, there is a curved background with Flint's beverage. It's sort of like Seeley and Jorwa just decided that they've like teleported back to like headquarters, because when Flint like walks up to this door, and he says, "That's a big affirmative, but a hacker can explain it better." It's like, I know the tomahawk is big, but like doesn't feel like we're on a helicopter anymore. Yeah, and certainly the lighting, right? It's like, no, those doors don't close, right? It's like a lot of light would be coming in from the side.
So a lot of headroom above Flint on that second panel.
Yeah,
when they're back inside, and this is going to be unfair because it's a good issue and he's an amazing artist, but the Cuba Ball issue where you had those generals in that helicopter, and the kind of the thought and attention, I think that he said that the script originally just had them sort of sat on benches, and he's thinking, well, actually, would it make it more dynamic if they're sort of sat on the side, and just the energy of the body language and the sense that there's the rotor blades are whipping up all of this energy around them and these kind of things, and I'm not sort. It's not on a par with that, I'm afraid.
So there is a difference with a writer and an artist who have like either been on a helicopter or are researching the right reference and mentally putting themselves in a space, right? Like whether it's like you're holding the toy and you're like, how many figures can fit here? Like, oh, well, they'd all have to sit down. Mm-hmm. Or you are like looking at photos of helicopters and noticing, oh, all these guys are sitting down and the rotor blade is like 6 feet away. And even though you're safe, you're like aware of it and it's loud and you like squint and you hunch over and you have your hands by your ears. And, if they're going to close the door so that the lighting is... Anyway, the thing that... this isn't just like drawing. This is not one of my like drawing G.I. Joe is really hard. This is drawing like action comics is really hard, and you have to think through your choreography, your setting, and your props. The thing that I don't like is after barrel roll is in the air and he loosens the winch, the hook, so that the jet ski can now fall. There's a close-up panel of Copperhead looking up, and he says, "Please don't do that. Fleet, disperse, crash, psh," and the jet ski lands what looks like squarely on him and like would kill anyone if this were not like a comic book or a superhero movie. But that feels like a joke where not reacting to the seriousness, the graveness of the moment. Copperhead is like a deadly killer and like an excellent boat pilot in a worldwide global terrorist army. Like it's like he looks up and he's like, whoa, please don't do that. Like, no. Oh, cut that word balloon. Like, fleet disperse, right? Okay, he's saying fleet disperse because he knows he's about to get hit. He'll lose control, and then all the Cobra boats will hit each other, and that is what happens. But is it issue 35 or 30? It must be 36 with the Michael Golden cover, the Marvel run with the is it the whale
Beached
and the
whale?
asp? Yeah. So like there is an issue. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm going off of memory. But if you find some of the visual storytelling in this Devil's Due issue 30 a little confusing about like the Cobra water vehicles, where they are, how close they are to the Joe vehicle they're chasing, like how clear is it that like Barrel Roll gets away? Like I remember there's a couple pages of very clear like vehicular action in Marvel issue 36 where is there an atoll or an island or something and they're going around it?
I think,
Right?
that's,
And it
I think
happens-
that's the one, yeah. Sorry, that's it's all the ships at sea, not Beached Whale.
Okay, thank you. And to a lesser extent, and this is a very different example, it also happens in, I think it's episode 7 of G.I. Joe. It's like the middle chapter of the second miniseries with the Weather Dominator, where before Spirit and Storm Shadow are fighting, like in the cave, you have a Joe force and a Cobra force with water vehicles like shooting at each other from opposite ends of, I think, an atoll. Am I saying it right? An atoll. And what Seeley's doing here is much more straightforward, actually. It's just a straight linear chase moving in one direction, but he's got a second dimension to work with, which is he's doing the x-axis, like going straight away from the island, but he's got the z-axis where vehicles are going up and down, and it's okay. But Jerwa, I'm sorry, I don't like Copperhead like pausing the scene to look at the camera and be like, oh no. Like and I'm being mean because he's not saying it in a cartoony voice. He's like saying it to himself, and I don't know, maybe you'd actually say that, but it's like I don't think we've ever seen that in a G.I. Joe comic where it's like a Cobra's about to get punched and he's like, oh please don't do that, and then like Roadblock's fist comes into the shot. It's like, no, you wouldn't have time to say that.
Okie dokie. As they say.
Back to the introduction
Do
of the
they?
Wave Crushers real quick.
Yeah. Tell us about the Wave Crusher.
I'm like with you. I didn't know what it was when they first showed up in the scene, and I thought the exact same thing you did. You see those vehicles, and then there's a shark there, and I was like, "Oh, that's badass!" Because I was like, the sharks just like came up right in front of these Cobra boats, and then I'm thinking we're gonna turn the page, and the sharks are gonna be like zooming ahead of the Cobra boats, and then they're gonna pick him up. No, that doesn't happen, and they never say that they're wave crushers or anything. Thanks Google, which didn't exist in 2002.
Yeah,
but it would have been awesome, but it wasn't.
I was slightly different. I didn't even notice it on my first read through, and on my second read through, I was like, "What is that? A shark?" And I was like, "No, that's not going to be a shark. That's going to be some random Cobra repaint of a shark that I've never heard of before."
Which is basically
yeah. So I had to look it up on online and find out. Was there a repaint of the shark released around about this time? Yes, 2001. Yeah.
If we're going to sort of scratch my nerd itch, and I do think it's fun, like that Devil's Due's trying to play ball with Hasbro and include some newer toys, and I think that Jerwa continuing that from Blaylock, that's fun. Like the shark is a little hard to draw, it's weird. So like thank you everyone for the attempt, like making this feel like G.I. Joe, not in 1991, but in 2004. But man, if you're going to include the Wave Crusher, what I really want to see is its pilot, the Sub Viper, a cool repaint of the Eco Warriors Sludge Viper. if I could change one panel here or sort of magically add a panel, I'd have a Sub Viper in the Wave Crusher, like radioing over to Copperhead.
Yeah, that would have
It's
totally.
like, Sub Viper 286, we are on your left and right. We're on your 6 and we're on your 9 and 3. Or like backup squad. Like, it's like, oh, have they come up from underwater? It's like we've submerged. What's the opposite of submerge? We've arisen.
Surfaced.
We've surfaced. Thank you. Let me ask a different question. How do you guys feel about Dr. Mindbender? Not the clarity of the reveal or not, or the tease of the reveal, but that he does this and he does this in this way.
I was fine with it.
Yep, fine with me.
I like the
wonder how long
surprise.
he's going to be like,
running loose on the island.
yeah.
Did you
Yeah,
guys
the
think?
whole-
It's
did
quite
you guys
it's quite
guess-
cool that he's sort of spread out over a number of issues as this kind of wacky wild card causing mayhem to the different factions over the course of quite a number of different issues.
Did you guys think it was him when in the end of the previous issue?
I think that I either didn't think that it was him or didn't think too much about it because I read them like back to back, so I just really went.
Yeah, probably in the same.
It wasn't like you said, if we were reading it month to month, and you get to that page and then you turn the page and there's Destro and you're like, well, what about barrel roll and the gun? And there's nothing, so that, it wasn't really a cliffhanger if you read them one right into the other. I didn't give it a whole lot of thought.
I read them a week apart, and when it was revealed to be Mindbender, I thought, oh, cool. What as Jay just said, got this like wild man running around the island and Cobra Commander can't pin him down. And then this dialogue of Mindbender's, no, I'm not going back.
Yeah.
Bam. I think that's a fun, Cobra is big enough and there are enough factions that, sometimes it's all working for one goal and sometimes, like Destro or Zartan are working at cross purposes and sometimes it's all frayed, like in Marvel issue 90, where like the brass of Cobra is just like trying to figure out who should do what.
Well, and I think the front cover kind of is meant to symbolize that with the breaking Cobra. And, you're seeing like, in one sense, traditional Cobra, with your top three, Cobra Commander, Baroness, and Destro, that's broken down. And where do we go from here?
Mm-hmm. What's the since I was a little hard on this cover, Jay, you make a good point that it does represent the issue. There's an issue of the IDW Real American Hero issue 176, and it's got a Shannon Gallant cover, which is split into thirds, top, middle, bottom, and it says the good, the bad, the ugly, and you see Snake Eyes' head, Baroness's head, Cobra Commander's head, and that's a very different cover than this Devil's 230, but it's working a little bit in a similar way in that you have this division into thirds, and that IDW cover, like that's referencing the Sergio Leone movie. It's like famous spaghetti western, but I always found that cover sort of like it's missing something. Like if it wants to be a movie poster or feel more like that movie, it needs more texture or color or like different type font treatment. But here's an example of, to Jay's point about Cobra fraying. I guess this cover does speak to the interior more than I thought it did at the beginning. So thank you, Jay, for saying that.
It's still not a very good cover. But it gets the point across.
What if each of the three circles were also cracking a little bit?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, the Cobra symbol cracking doesn't seem to quite sort of join up so much with the three circles.
Yeah, the Cobra symbol needs to be bigger, and this is also one of those cases where I wish some of the art could be in front of the G.I. Joe logo a little bit.
On the previous cover, it was. Destro's head was in front of the cover. I was going to point that out.
Yeah. I feel like with the modern IDW run, that's never done, and it was done for the Marvel run, and once or twice they shoot it. There's that Andrew Wildman cover where Lady J is shooting the G.I. Joe logo.
That's not
Yeah,
very
I know
nice.
it. I know that the Joe logo was destroyed on an SL Galant cover. It's where the Cobras are driving a very large vehicle through the logo. It's a kind of
Oh,
an homage to
is that
issue
201?
1.
I think that's 201.
I think you might be right. Yeah, 201 is the Joes on a, or is it Rolling Thunder?
Sorry.
Here we go. 209 it was.
Did Gallant redraw the logo?
He must have drawn it. Yeah, it was like a GI Joe logo being shattered into bits. It was a is the tank called a maggot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and the
so-
pilot is worms. All right. Well, do you guys have anything else to say about these two
I
issues?
just had some I Spies.
Yeah, I've got some.
I spy with my little eye.
My first I Spy was Alexander saying that failure is not an option. So failure is not the option is the tagline of the 1995 film Apollo 13 and is often credited to NASA flight director Gene Kranz, who titled his 2000 memoir Failure is Not an Option.
My I Spy in issue 29. I keep doing this. It's not in the actual comic book. So after the letters page is the Devil's Due news page, and there is a blurb for the Hasbro Wizards of the Coast G.I. Joe trading card game.
Oh.
And the headline is Devil's Due handling art for G.I. Joe TCG. Cobra handling art for Devil's Due TCG. And I don't remember this trading card game, so I don't know if all this art is new or if some of it's new and some of it's from like all these issues of Devil's Due that have already been published or from like battle files.
Yeah, that doesn't sound familiar at all. I remember
but
the trading cards, but not a trading card game.
I mean, they were. I mean, you know, like in the late '90s and the early 2000s, there was Marvel Overpower and Marvel, was it Recharge? There were like
I remember
there were
Overpower.
several trading card games
Yeah.
that were trying to do what Magic the Gathering had done, and it's like, I'm sure that if you asked me, like, was there a Transformers TCG? I'd say no. And then you're like, you're wrong. And I'd say, oh, I guess there was one. And then you'd be like, no, Tim, there were three. And it's like, I don't remember that at all. Like there was a Beast Wars game that came in a box, but it was aimed very young. And that would be, 97 or something. But so I like this ad, and I bring up this kind of announcement as an I Spy because it helps to ground what else was happening with G.I. Joe with Hasbro.
The base set had 114 cards with one promo card for Venomous Maximus that you could only get from the Valor vs. Venom VHS or DVD, and an Armored Strike expansion pack of 78 cards.
Wait, I have the Valor vs. Venom DVD. Do I have one of these cards?
You may well have a card within it then, yeah. It was ceased production in 2005 due to insufficient demand and an overcrowded CCG market.
Yeah.
And I also wonder if Devil's Due did new art and if Hasbro used like existing toy art from those couple of years for like character shots. So that's my I Spy.
Yeah, good.
My I Spy is issue 29, page 10, panel 4. The Crimson Guards, the Crimson Twins outfits looks almost exactly like the Cobra Claws commander, which I thought it was weird that they put them in that same kind of look. And also on that same page, Dial Tone looks kind of like Stalker.
Yeah, it always happens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Crimson Twins in the Crimson outfit was actually a toy. It was from 2003.
Oh, okay.
It was packaged with the Crimson Command copter. So those figures were created using the legs, arms, and torso of the Cobra Claws commander and
There
the
you go.
head of Scalpel. But I guess with one of them just with a scar on Xamot's face. So
Didn't they have...
yeah, that's why it recalls that, because it definitely
Okay.
was. But it's yeah, maybe they just saw on the teleconference when the Claws commander was reporting in and thought, yeah, that's a natty outfit. Could have one of those for myself. Thank you very much.
The dialogue went something like, "That's sharp. We need one of those."
Armani, Prada, Versace too. Joe's changed their outfits from black to blue. Duke and Hawk, look but don't gawk. Changing their kit, whoa, is that legit? Swapping camo jackets, headgear and boots. It's now neon colours and funky spacesuits. Sci-fi stalker and even roadblocks. While Bill, Flint and Mutt gave me a shock. So go take a walk if clothes aren't your passion. Cause it's comic book talk and lovely G.I. Joe fashion.
And actually, I think it's about 3 for 3 in terms of number of issues and different outfits for the Crimson Twins, because
They're always in something different.
We've seen them in this outfit. We've seen them in just suits when they were having their executive massage, and then they were also in these sort of strange blue, white, grey kind of Devil's Due creations as well. So
they're the Janet Van Dyne of the G.I. Joe universe.
Yeah, they are with the fashion.
So much of Cobra is so flamboyant. You know, like Dr. Mindbender's original design, he's shirtless and has a big cape and Cobra suspenders, or Tomax and Xamot, who, like, I think because we grew up with it, like, we look at Tomax and Xamot and we're like, well, yeah. And you show the Tomax and Xamot action figure to anyone else, like your cousin or your neighbor, and it's like, oh, these guys look like they're in the circus. And
they were.
No, yes, exactly. And like how they act on the show, and they're like acrobats. And Cobra, you know, like it's Cobra's no fun if everyone's just wearing like plain, I don't know, dark gray and black. So I don't know if some of these Tomax and Xamot costumes in Devil's Due are exciting enough or fun enough. But I do think it's fine that they change costumes more often than some other characters. Like, I think Cobra Commander reasonably can go from hood to battle helmet to like battle armor. But I think, you know, Destro should just sort of be in like one of 2 Destro costumes. And like I can imagine some writer doing a scene where Tomax and Xamot at the Extensive Enterprises penthouse office open up their fancy like walk-in closet and like specifically choose which like battle outfit they're going to get into for the next issue. Because it's like Cobra is flamboyant. It's like the bad guys are colorful.
Yeah, I feel like with the twins especially, you know, and this is how I've always, like we said, we've always been able to accept their costumes because they are circus costumes. They're circus performers, so that's where, you know, where that comes from. But as a result, and that is so flamboyant, you don't want to see them in anything that's plain. I mean, a suit, you know, like a 3-piece suit would be fine because they're in business. But yeah, like Mark mentioned, there's a uniform that Seeley's drawn them in a couple times that's just blue with like plain silver shoulder pads in it, and it's like, no, that's just way too plain for the twins. You got to have something like way out there. I mean, literally like a circus outfit. It's got to be
Siegfried and Roy.
Yeah, it's got to be crazy 2.0. You can't go go down.
This thing that they're in, the sort of red like repaint of the Claws leader, is that what it is? Claws commander? Yeah. It's kind of just it's like a slightly athletic business suit. It's like, no, that looks like halfway to their Extensive Enterprises business meeting uniform. It's like, where's the Cobra symbol? Where's like a collar or some chest or a cod piece or you know, like something more fun.
There's going to be a classified figure with those guys in 3-piece suit with a cod piece.
It's like they're turning up to, you know, the military leaders, and they want to, you know, dress up as a proper military leader and have a bit more gravitas and be taken seriously, rather than the first reaction for the troops to sort of stare at their cod piece. Cool. Next up, I Spy. I've got Iron Grenadier. So we've got a couple of different variants of the Iron Grenadier in these issues. We've got the insectoid sort of Devil's Due design, which is kind of an update of the original V1. But then we've also got a V2 more recent figure with the big shoulder pads. So yeah, interesting that they're sort of combining. That's the one that I think Duke dresses up as. So interesting, both in terms of using the different kind of looks that have been established in the comic and new toys, but also using that as a bit of a storytelling device as well, that you can tell the Duke Grenadier apart from the regular ones because they are in these different outfits.
All right, one more I Spy on this was in issue 29, page 28, panel 3. The generator that Barrel Roll pushes down the stairs was built by Arbco.
Excellent. It's sort of a nice little, it's very subtle, but it makes you think, is Arbco like the Acme of the G.I. Joe world?
Yeah, and see, this time the Arbco product, unlike the vent in the castle that the Cobra troopers were complaining about that keeps popping open, this one works because it just depends on gravity
it works as something to be thrown down.
It just falls down the stairs successfully. So that's a good Arbco product.
Did we spot Televiper goggles being used quite extensively? And once one was punched out, and as he was lying on the floor, it was flashing across out of order.
I didn't even notice that. I always thought that was strange on the cartoon, how like words would appear across their goggles. But I didn't even notice that they did that in here.
In the cartoon, they rarely speak, and there's some, for me, question as to like if they can or if they're allowed to. It's like, wait, these guys, are they like so techie that they don't talk? It's just like what they want to say flashes across there. I wonder if the people working on the show had sort of decided something for themselves.
I don't know.
We had a little line of dialogue. I think it was from Cobra Commander. He said, "Send him to the interrogator." So interesting sort of dropping in of a new character. I don't think who's been referred to before in the comics up to this point. So just dropping in the name and the function, I suppose, as well, but not actually seeing them on panel.
Yeah, that didn't pay off. But it was nice to be, that he mentioned it. I was like, "Oh, good, we're gonna get to see Interrogator now."
Yeah, I think we do.
Barrel
I think
Roll
we
got
do somewhere down the lines.
New toys!
I had new toys, but I think we've touched on most of them. So we had Wave Crusher, Iron Grenadier, Crimson Twins, Dart, and the final one was the new update to Cobra Commander. So the 2003 Spy Troops, or possibly the follow-on black version of the costume. He seems to sort of alternate between a kind of a bluey and a blacky version of the costume, and there was a sort of a more vibrant blue and a dark black version of the character. So this is the helmeted Cobra Commander with those kind of stylized ridges kind of in the corners of the mask. And that was all my I Spies.
Mark, I have a question. Issue 29, the 6-panel page, page 8. Who is that Viper up on the top?
You're not talking about the silent page?
Yeah, the silent page.
That's a Cobra Coils.
Cobra Claw.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Is that
We've seen the
capitals?
commander, but I don't know that we've ever gotten a really good picture of what they look like.
Yeah, I think we've seen them sort of working away in the background.
Yeah.
So this is the trooper of which the Claw's commander is a commander of.
Alright, cool.
Error detected. Error detected. No prize incoming.
In issue 29, my first error detected is that on page 19, panel 1, during Barrel Roll's escape, his parachute backpack disappears for one panel. We see it before, we see it after. And my other...
Hold on, let me catch up.
Yeah, page 19.
Oh, right. So as he's scurrying around, it just sort of momentarily kind of isn't there as he's working his way around the building. Is that on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when we were talking about the cover to 29 at the very beginning of this episode, my other error detected is that on the cover to 29, on the bottom right under the cigar, Destro has signed his name, but he's only signed his first name and his last name, not his middle name. And I feel like if you were James McCullen Destro signing a contract with the president of an entire nation, you'd sign your full name.
Middle initial and all. Very good. I had one error more error detected, which caused me a little bit of confusion. which was in issue 30 in Sierra Gordo in the sequence where the Joes are under fire. There's this big explosion, and in the foreground, it's Ripcord. The initial panel
is this Wacom? That's the sound effect.
That is Wacom. Ripcord. Oh no, mortar! Wacom! Crack! And so Ripcord is sort of jumping away, shouting mortar, and in the explosion, it appears to be Tunnel Rat catching the brunt of the explosion and falling back because, from his what would you call it, a bandana or whatever it is on his head, it's got these kind of tails kind of flapping away. So it's quite a distinctive marker. But then in the following panel, Tunnel Rat seems to be okay and returning fire, and its low light is looking worse for wear and is being propped up by Recondo. So I wonder if somewhere along the lines there were some crossed wires and these possibly originally it was low light in that explosion in sort of silhouette, but somebody corrected it maybe in inverted commas to add in those tails on the bandana and caused unnecessary confusion, or who knows. But it certainly very much seems to be that it's suggesting that it's Tunnel Rat getting exploded up in that panel when it should have been low light.
Before I do my favorite line of dialogue, I just want to do a quick comparison because I'm holding issue 30 in my hand. I don't have the collection; it's not digital, and I've talked about sort of if covers would benefit from some copy from type, even if in 2004 that's sort of not cool and not done. And here's a quick comparison: the inside back cover and the back cover to issue 30. So the inside back cover is an ad, a full page ad for G.I. Joe Reloaded #4, and the image is Snake Eyes kicking Storm Shadow. This is the Reloaded continuity. And I'm gonna go out on a limb and say and add one word to my description. Snake Eyes is just kicking Storm Shadow. Like there's nothing else to this cover, and I know we're not reviewing this comic, but imagine if there was some copy and it said something like Sword Brothers Betrayal, or like, okay, so now like turn the object so that now you're just looking at the back cover to issue 30, right? So this is a full page ad for the next issue of the regular continuity for issue 31, and it is the cover of what's going to be issue 31. And you see two Cobras who we do know and one who we don't, or maybe not even a Cobra. And again, this is an ad, not a cover, so it probably has copy that the cover, and we'll talk about this in the next episode, will not have. Mm-hmm. But it says in a very fancy font, "Who is Wraith?" ? And then it goes even further. Brandon Jerwa and Aspen's Talent Caldwell will show you, right? So I bet when we get to our next episode, we're talking about the cover to issue 31. I'm going to say oh, I like this drawing, or oh, I don't like this drawing, or I like this cover, but it's just three guys standing there. And if you know G.I. Joe, this guy in the front, you might think like, oh, who's that? And if you don't know G.I. Joe, that this guy is special or new or different may not occur to you. It's sort of like a Cobra wave crusher appearing out of nowhere. It's like sometimes I need to be told.
Mm-hmm.
Quote of the week, 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 quote of the week.
My favorite line of dialogue is in issue 30 on page 7. After the water escape, the Joes get away, Barrel Roll gets away. Baroness is talking to the Crimson Twins, and she says, I don't understand anything about the commander anymore. He's been so careless in the past. And then she continues, Tomax or Xamot says he's been driven, and she says, yes, and we've seen it all before, haven't we? I'll do my Baroness voice. Yes, and we've all seen it before, haven't we? There's a big plan brewing, something so massive that minor setbacks don't even warrant his attention. And that is so great and so smart. So that's a great line of dialogue, Brandon Jerwa, because it reveals something that hasn't been pointed out about Cobra Commander, or if it's been obvious in previous stories, I didn't pick up on it. And it is a kind of story logic. It's like, why? It's a motivation. Why would someone do something? Why would someone behave a certain way? Cobra Commander is acting a certain way right now because something else is more important to him, which like sets up the rest of the story or the whole run in an exciting way. Like, oh, Cobra Commander is up to something. Cool. So I really like that line of dialogue.
And I'll add as well that I loved it when the Baroness designed the costumes for the Incredibles. That was one of my favorite bits.
In my head, I'm doing a perfect Morgan Lofting. So so I wish I could teleport you into how my voice sounds vibrating through my skull.
I was just thinking only Tim could make the Baroness unsexy.
Oh.
I liked the intro and let me just do my Baroness voice. Oh, you've got a Baroness voice. Brilliant.
I just want to point out, if you are lucky enough to be my nephew, when we play Transformers, I can do an excellent Megatron. I can actually do an excellent Megatron,
wow.
And a pretty good Starscream.
Hey, kudos for trying.
Kudos to our listeners who've made it this far in the episode and got to hear it.
My favorite line of dialogue was from issue 30, and this is during the battle when one of the rebel soldiers sees his friend dying all around him. Dart says to him, "They're fighting for you. Don't give up on fighting for them." I thought that was a great line of dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff, and very serious. Jay is
keeping. I mean, Jirwa, pulls him out.
He does. A bit of gravitas there. So I'm sort of drawn, obviously to the slightly more immature line of dialogue. So I had
one other one, but I'll let you go.
I had Cobra Commander's sort of speech, sort of rallying cries. And he was saying, "This is a new age for Cobra, a new age of victory and dominance." And then Barrel Roll sort of whispers to himself, "Skip ahead to the new age of shutting the hell up, please." Yeesh. I had a second one as well, which was later on with Flint, where he sort of has a throwaway line. A G.I. Joe career doesn't guarantee you'll be a good writer, and I've got the receipts to prove it.
Yeah, I thought that was good.
So it's funny, but it's also sort of also telling a little bit of plot there as well, because I guess there's question marks if Flint is such a well-known, recognized, successful writer. Why has he come running back to G.I. Joe so quickly? And possibly part of the answer to that then is that he wasn't an incredibly successful writer after all.
Is there an added layer? Is Jirwa saying that Blaylock's idea to have Flint publish a book is not a good fit for G.I. Joe?
I think you could take it that way. You might be able to take it that way.
Sort of soft, retconning things back into the line. Did you have one more, Jay?
Just a thing that I thought was funny was page 18 when Barrel Roll's escaping, and he shoves the gas line or whatever it is in the guy's face, and the Cobra says, "My eyes, my eyes." It just was like such an Austin Powers moment for me. Like, you're gonna scream, my eyes, yeah.
Cool.
Silly.
So yo Joage. Ooh, who's brave enough to go first?
I'll go first. We're doing these together?
Yeah, let's do these two as a single score.
We talked about them together.
5. As I have stated over the last 2 hours, there are lots of little things that need work. But Jirwa has some good turns. Seeley pulls off some exciting things, and it moves along. It's a good chapter 2 and 3 of a story, but I don't. There's a lot about Devil's Due that doesn't agree with me. So 5.
Okay. I think if these issues had a better artist, just a more mature, competent artists. Like we talked about General Flag's funeral that was drawn by Mike Vosberg in issue 19, and you just see a more mature, competent artist as far as storytelling. I think if these issues had a better artist and less offensive colors, I would really, really love these. I mean, I can see how there's such a big vocal component of fandom that does really appreciate the Devil's Due stuff and Jerwa's stuff in particular, because I really like these. I found them really enjoyable. And it does feel a lot like history repeating, which I think I gave, if not an 8, maybe a 9. The only real problem that I have with this is, just that Seeley's not that advanced of an artist. You guys have said before, it's a hard book to draw. It's a big ask for a beginner, and then a colorist that wants to prove that he knows what water looks like. There are a couple big strikes, but I'm still really high on it. I'm going to 8.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
very good.
Like I said, if it weren't for those few things, I might have even gone higher. And when we get to the end, we'll see how it plays out. But I just really enjoyed a lot of the action, the interplay, the fact that he put so much stuff in 2 issues. I didn't ever feel like there's too much stuff going on here. Everything flowed really nicely, and you went from one location to another, but it all kind of served the story. I think Jer was a really strong writer, even starting off.
Nice. I was going to say Tim only gave it a 5, and he had an extra bonus point, as we know, for the nicer paper stock. So
Hold on, let me step over. Let me grab my issue 28 and see what you're talking about. I'm taking my headphones off.
My monitor's really smooth.
Putting my headphones back on.
Yeah, I'd say it's a relatively subtle change in paper stock, to be honest. It's
Opening
not
28. I'm opening 27. I don't know if I see a difference. Anyway, why don't you continue?
Yeah, no, yeah. I think it's subtle, but where were we? Okay, so my score. I think I'm probably going to go with something like a 7. So I'll say 7. Yeah, I agree with I think both sides of both opinions on the higher and the lower scores. There's a lot of different plots being juggled, and generally that sort of motoring along successfully. There's a lot to like, and there's a lot to like even about the art, that things are generally drawn in a pleasant and easily readable kind of way, that it's not uncluttered, and there's a lot of clarity to the storytelling generally. There's I think some of those points I raised earlier about some of those just not quite following certain elements, like who's that guy in the blanket, that sense of place on the helicopter just not ringing true. Some of the clarity around exactly what is happening in some of the action sequences in Sierra Gordo just stopped it from getting a higher score for me. But sort of definitely enjoying this as we're going along, and very interested to see how some of the plot points progress. So yeah, I think that is us done with that issue. We don't have a G.I. Joe Origins this week, unless either of you are going to surprise me.
No surprises right now.
Yeah. So, but hopefully, you'll take it away as homework, and at a future date, surprise me with your very own G.I. Joe Origin trailer. We do have a listener letter or email that I wanted to highlight. So this came in from Sam to, what would you call ourselves, Postbox Talking Joe. So here we go. Hey, Talking Joe team, I've been reflecting on the challenges of the last 2 years, and I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate this show. the thoughtful discussion and analysis, the light-hearted banter, the pure delight you all take in exploring the many visions of our favourite IP. It is a wonder that a programme can undergo so much change in so little time and remain so compelling. It's a very different experience than in those early days, but no less enjoyable. This is fortunate because I can safely say that a bit of nostalgic escapism has never been more welcome and probably never healthier. I've got steady work, a lovely wife and son, and so much to be grateful for, but for all that stability, the world around us feels increasingly uncertain. There's no changing or controlling that, so it doesn't do to dwell on it, and the little distractions that fold us in comfort, even for a few moments, are so very welcome. Talking Joe has kept me awake and engaged for a many late night journey along the mid-Atlantic coast. It was my constant companion for those first sleepless months of my son's life and has given me familiar refuge from reality in this time of misinformation, extremism, and discord. Thanks, gentlemen, for your energy, wit, and dedication. It is appreciated. Cheers, Sam. So big thanks to Sam for taking the time to craft such a well written message to us. It's gratefully appreciated, and it's very nice to hear that us waffling away and projecting that message out into the world is being well received. That we've got some vocal fans who sort of know might be out there, like commenting on the videos, like Christopher, or sort of messaging us regularly on Facebook after we've made a post, like Richard. But a lot of the time I think it's people sort of listening and appreciating the show, but not that feedback always sort of directly coming back to us. So it's sort of it's nice to know that when we're not doing this away in our little vacuum, that it's landing and being well received, and it's it's very touching to hear that people are enjoying it in their different ways.
Hear, hear.
Much appreciated, Sam. Cheers.
Cool. So next time on Talking Joe Disavowed, we will continue our look at the Brandon Jerwa of G.I. Joe with parts 4 and 5 of this 5-part arc, issues 31 and 32. And over on the irregular ARA show, we'll continue to cover the issues as they come out. There's issue 289 will be the Dawn Helix Spotlight. Issue 290 will be the October Guard Spotlight. And then after that, it's continuing the drumbeat on to issue 300. So very exciting. Where can people find you guys? Jay?
Break Room Sketches on Facebook.
It's been quiet over in the break room these last few weeks.
It has been the last few months. Yeah.
But people should still find Jay there because there are still cool drawings there from before the last few months.
Yeah.
True.
There'll be some new stuff. We're just waiting for things to calm down a little at work.
Very good. And Tim, where can people find you?
My brick and mortar comic book store is in Somerville, Massachusetts. Online, it's at hubcomics.com, and my G.I. Joe blog is a realamericanbook.com, and I have 3 different posts right now in my draft folder in various states, one of which is 97% done, and I think I can post like an hour after we stop taping this episode.
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
If you have been missing some blog posts, some are coming your way, actually coming your way.
Cool. And you posted recently about Saga coming back. For a kind of, I guess, fairly indie-minded shop like Hub Comics, how big a difference does a big book like Saga make?
It makes a big difference. I love Batman. I love X-Men. We don't sell a lot of Batman or X-Men. We sell a ton of Saga, both the issues and the paperbacks and the hardcovers. And even though it's published through Image and isn't a marquee name like Batman or X-Men, because there's been just a tiny bit of merchandise and there's no like TV show or movie, I think amongst like fantasy comics readers or people who follow a particular writer, it's a really big deal. And that it came back is a really big deal.
I must say that I was in the comic shop and saw the cover for the latest saga, and I'm not a floppy reader by and large, but I was almost tempted enough to grab that and to read it as singles, but I will wait and control myself for the trade, because my floppies, I'm just not a single issue guy, apart from G.I. Joe, which is my exception. I'll cut that out.
It's okay.
But yeah, very excited to see it come back. Oh yes, and you can find the show in all of the usual places. talkingjoe.co.uk is the website that has all of the links to the places, such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the contact us details, as well as links to the YouTube channel. So if you are an audio only person, you can find the YouTube version of this show over on our YouTube channel, which has got Jay slaves away over a hop keyboard, working to produce the YouTube episode with lots of extra sort of visual content to help sort of illustrate the points as we raise them and go along. So do check
and to get a chuckle out of our viewers if we can. We try to.
And we're also on Patreon, patreon.com, Talking Joe. So big thanks to all of the backers, Richard, Sam, Jay, Bill, Christopher, and Justin, who are all getting early access to episodes, as well as some exclusive content. But that is us done for another week. But remember,
nobody beats Talking Joe,
a real American podcast
featuring international heroes from across the world. Laters.
There, we could be real international heroes instead of real American heroes. Talking Joe, real international heroes. We're not really heroes. We'll just stick with what we got. It's my day off. I'm not thinking about anything.
It's my day. On principle, I'm not thinking about anything. You're not paying me to think.
Stick a fork in it, it's done.